They looked like the future, outboards packed with next-generation tech, unleashed during a once-in-a-century boating boom. But beneath the chrome, disaster brewed. 9 engines so plagued by failure that even dealers, desperate for sales, started refusing them. This is the hidden story of pandemic-fueled ambition, untested engineering, and an industry-wide reliability crisis. But what exactly pushed these engines over the edge, and why are dealers now walking away? The answers reveal more than just bad machines. In 2020, the outboard industry entered uncharted territory. Showrooms that once hustled to meet modest seasonal targets now faced a tidal wave of orders. As lockdown swept the globe, families with canceled vacations and grounded travel plans turned to the water. Dealers logged record sales, with some reporting triple their usual volume in a single quarter. Manufacturers responded by ramping up production, pushing out every available unit, sometimes shipping engines before all the bugs were worked out. By 2021, U.S. outboard sales soared past 330,000 units, a high not seen since the 1980s. Inventory backlogs became the new normal. Dealers, flush with cash and eager to keep pace, placed orders months in advance, betting that the surge would last. Warehouses filled with crates of new engines, and manufacturers dangled incentives, rebates, extended dating, and bonus cash for those willing to stock the latest high-tech models. Floor plan financing fueled the buying spree, with interest rates still manageable and lenders eager to underwrite the boom. The optimism was contagious. Boat builders launched new models designed around bigger, more advanced outboards, and marketing promised a seamless blend of power and digital control. For a brief moment, it seemed the industry had cracked the code. More technology, more sales, more satisfied customers. But beneath the surface, cracks began to form. The speed of the expansion left little room for caution. Dealers signed contracts for minimum purchase quotas, locking themselves into commitments that would haunt them as the market shifted. Inventory ballooned. By late 2022, some mid-sized dealerships carried over $2 billion in unsold outboards, with interest and curtailment payments eating into margins each month. The pressure to move stock intensified. Engines that had barely left the factory were stacked 3 deep in showrooms and storage yards, waiting for buyers who might never arrive. The industry's gamble on endless demand set the stage for a reckoning that would soon hit both dealers and boaters alike. Dealerships that once thrived on a steady churn of inventory now found themselves locked into contracts that favored the factory, not the showroom. The rush to secure product during the boom years left many dealers on the hook for rigid purchase quotas: 30, 40, even 50 engines per year per model, regardless of how many actually sold. These agreements, signed in the optimism of 2021, offered little room for negotiation when demand cooled. As the months dragged on and boats sat unsold, dealers faced mounting interest payments on floor plan loans, with rates climbing from 5% to over 10% by 2024. Every quarter, lenders demanded curtailments, forced principal paydowns on aging stock, tightening the noose on cash flow. Manufacturers, eager to keep production lines humming, dangled short-term incentives, rebates for big orders, deferred interest, and bonus cash for stocking the latest high-output models. Many dealers, fearing they would be left behind, took the bait. But when the market softened, those incentives vanished, leaving warehouses stuffed with engines that cost more to hold than they could ever fetch at retail. Auction houses filled with shrink-wrapped outboards, some models selling for 60 cents on the dollar. On paper, these engines were assets. In reality, they were anchors. The new generation of outboards promised more power, cleaner emissions, and digital integration. But with every leap forward came new complexity. Digital controls, dual-prop gear cases, and proprietary software systems meant that even routine maintenance became a specialized and expensive affair. Parts costs soared, with some electronic modules and sensors doubling in price over just 2 years. Warranty claims piled up, often outpacing the margins on new sales. Dealers watched as the cost of honoring those claims, out-of-pocket labor, unreimbursed parts, and lost shop time erased profits and strained relationships with both customers and manufacturers. Caught between the pressure of manufacturer quotas and the reality of unsellable inventory, dealers began to question the wisdom of stocking engines that required more time in the service bay than on the water. The risk was no longer theoretical. For many, the only way to avoid financial ruin was to stop ordering altogether, even if it meant losing long-standing franchise privileges. The warranty strain was just beginning to show. The countdown to the industry's reckoning had started. The first cracks in the outboard revolution did not wait long to surface. 𝐉𝐨𝐬𝐳 E-Tech G2, once hailed as the future of two-stroke power, left its owners stranded almost overnight. After BRP pulled the plug on 𝐉𝐴𝐬𝐳 in 2020, thousands of boaters woke up to find themselves orphaned. No more factory support, no new parts, and dealers desperate to dump inventory at half price. The technical promise of cleaner emissions and digital controls was quickly overshadowed by chronic injector failures, glitchy engine management modules, and wiring harnesses that corroded in humid climates. Service calls stretched into months. Some owners watched their boats sit idle through entire seasons, waiting for repairs that would never come. Meanwhile, the Mercury Verado V12 arrived with a different kind of shot. This 1,000-pound behemoth was designed to be the crown jewel of luxury offshore rigs, but its sheer mass rewrote the rules for hull compatibility. Dealers in Sydney and along the U.S. Gulf Coast started refusing orders, calling the V12 too big to service and too risky to sell. Showrooms filled with unsold stock as marinas struggled to find boats that could safely carry the weight. The integrated steering and transmission systems meant that even routine maintenance required factory-trained technicians and hours of labor. Labor costs soared, resale values tanked, and the flagship quickly became a liability on the showroom floor. Then came the stories from the water, stories that made even seasoned captains uneasy. The Mercury Verado L6, an earlier generation supercharged outboard, developed a reputation for saltwater corrosion in its shift shaft and lower gear case. Owners reported stiff shifting, sudden loss of drive, and in rare cases, boats left adrift offshore. Dealers along the Atlantic and Gulf Coast started turning away L6 trade-ins. Lawsuits and warranty disputes piled up, fueled by technician logs and showing repeated failures in key shift components. Mechanics whispered about the risks of service in these engines, especially as parts grew scarce and repair costs climbed. Each of these failures carried a different sting. For some, it meant financial loss and broken trust. For others, it was the risk of being stranded far from shore. Dealers, caught between angry customers and unsellable stock, began to draw a line, refusing to order, refusing to trade, and quietly warning buyers away. The promise of a maintenance-free future had curdled into a cycle of breakdown and abandonment, and the industry was only beginning to reckon with the fallout. Saltwater found its way into the Yamaha F350 from the inside out. What began as a promise of V8 reliability turned into a silent epidemic of internal rot. The engine's midsection, hidden beneath layers of paint and marketing, corroded from within, sometimes dissolving entire exhaust passages before owners even noticed. Service managers opened up F350s, expecting routine maintenance, and instead found the core of the engine flaking away, orange dust collecting in the bottom of the housing. The fix wasn't a simple gasket swap. It meant a full teardown, a midsection rebuild, and thousands of dollars of labor, often for owners who had already lost weeks to diagnosis and parts delays. Yamaha's next flagship, the XTO Offshore, raised the bar for horsepower and complexity. But in the field, its design demanded a new kind of loyalty from mechanics. Even basic repairs, like replacing the steering actuator or servicing the alternator, required the entire power head to be lifted off the midsection, a job that stretched routine service into a multi-day ordeal. Labor bills climbed past $3,000 for what was once considered standard upkeep. Dealers reported shop bays tied up for days at a time, with frustrated owners waiting out the high season on dry land. Each XTO in for service meant another slot lost, another customer on hold, and another round of calls to the parts distributor. Suzuki's DF350A, celebrated at launch for its dual-prop innovation, brought its own set of headaches. The extra propeller doubled the number of seals and moving parts in the lower unit. In heavy rain or after a summer storm, water found its way past the separator and into the fuel system, stalling engines and sending boats back to the dock on a tow line. Mechanics documented early corrosion on prop shafts and bearings, sometimes within the first 100 hours. Parts back orders stretched into months, and owners traded stories about service bills that outpaced the cost of a used car. In service departments, the mood shifted from pride to resignation. Engines that once symbolized a new era of boating now lined the shop floor, each waiting for a teardown, a rebuild, or a rare part that might never arrive. Maintenance had become a marathon, expensive, labor-intensive, and for many impossible to keep up with. The promise of high-tech reliability had turned into a cycle of endless service, with no easy way out. By 2025, the warning signs were impossible to ignore. A major safety recall swept through Honda's BF250 and BF350 lines after shift actuators began failing at sea, triggering sudden gear engagement or total loss of control. Dealerships scrambled as warranty requests mounted, and insurers hiked premiums on boats fitted with the affected engines. Wait times for repairs stretched beyond 6 weeks, leaving owners stranded and used prices in freefall, some dropping by nearly half in a single quarter. The recall's ripple effect reached far beyond Honda. It reminded veteran dealers of the Force Outboards from decades earlier, when chronic failures and part shortages forced the entire brand onto industry blacklists. That legacy collapse left a permanent scar, teaching dealers to cut their losses early when reliability faltered and support dried up. Yet the new threat wasn't just mechanical, it was digital. The latest generation of outboards arrived with encrypted engine control units locked tight behind proprietary software. For independent mechanics, the message was clear. Without factory credentials, even simple repairs were out of reach. Owners who once relied on trusted local shops now faced a wall of error codes and immobilized engines if the software detected an unauthorized tool. A failed update or battery swap could brick an engine, requiring a new engine controls unit at a cost of up to $3,000 and a wait of months for delivery. In 2025, more than 60% of new outboards shipped with these digital locks, according to industry reports. This digital lockdown fueled a growing right to repair crisis. Lawsuits and lobbying efforts mounted as mechanics and owners demanded access to diagnostics and firmware. Manufacturers defended the restrictions, citing emissions compliance and safety. But the practical result was a wave of boats sidelined by software barriers rather than physical breakdowns. Mechanics documented cases where the engine wasn't broken, the software was. For the first time, the threat to boating wasn't just corrosion or a failed part, but a locked system that could turn a $40,000 engine into dead weight overnight. The industry's past failures had come full circle, but now the blockade was invisible, written in code. As the financial fallout loomed, dealers and owners alike faced a new reality. The right to repair was no longer a given, and the future of outboard reliability would be decided as much in the server room as in the shop. A charter captain in the Florida Keys spent his savings on a pair of high-output outboards, drawn in by promises of low maintenance and digital reliability. 2 seasons later, both engines sat silent, waiting for parts that never came. He watched the bookings dry up and the bills pile high. When it came time to sell, the auction house offered just $14,000 for engines that had cost him over $40,000 new, barely enough to pay off the loans. His story is echoed in marinas from Sydney to Seattle, where once coveted models now stack up in rows, shrink-wrapped and unsold, waiting for buyers who never appear. Dealership finance managers sort through spreadsheets of losses, tracking the bleed as each month brings new curtailment notices and interest charges. Liquidation values have collapsed. Engines that cost $20,000 new might fetch just $12,000 at auction if they sell at all. Some models, plagued by warranty claims and part shortages, are discounted by up to 70% within 3 years. The numbers are stark. By 2025, more than 2 million outboards have been recalled or dumped at auction, with dealers recouping only a fraction of their investment. Behind every statistic is a human story. A family's ruined fishing season, a charter business shuttered, a dealership forced to close its doors. The cost isn't just measured in dollars lost, but in trust broken and livelihoods erased. For many, the dream of easy boating has turned into a relentless cycle of repairs, write-downs, and regret. Dealers across the country began to push back in ways the industry hadn't seen in decades. In boardrooms and back offices, the language changed from optimism to survival. Internal policy reviews at major dealer networks laid out new refusal clauses, giving managers the authority to reject shipments of engines with high warranty rates or chronic parts delay. By late 2024, some regional groups in the Southeast and Pacific Northwest formalized blacklists, sending manufacturers written notice that certain models would no longer be accepted, no matter the incentives. Trade associations quietly circulated bulletins warning members about mounting risks. In dealer meetings, finance managers presented spreadsheets showing the true cost of unsellable stock. Negative equity on floor plan loans, unreimbursed labor for repeated warranty work, and markdowns that wiped out years of profit. One memo, distributed among the coalition of Gulf Coast dealers, spelled out the new reality. If an engine required more than 3 warranty returns per 20 units sold, it would be dropped from future orders. The refusal wasn't just about technical flaws. It was about protecting the business from financial ruin. Lobbyists representing independent dealers pressed for legislative changes, demanding the right to refuse problematic models without losing franchise protection. Behind closed doors, manufacturers faced mounting pressure to offer buybacks or risk losing entire regions to competitor brands. While rumors swirled about sealed filings and undisclosed warnings, especially in cases like Smith versus Mercury, no court had compelled public disclosure. Still, the collective action of the dealer network sent a clear message. The era of blind loyalty was over. When the people who once championed these engines began to walk away, the collapse was no longer theoretical. It was happening, one refusal letter at a time. Right now, encrypted diagnostics and proprietary parts leave even seasoned mechanics locked out, while unsold engines crowd empty showrooms. As technology races ahead, trust lags further behind. The next breakthrough could restore confidence or deepen the divide between innovation and reliability. Until then, every ignition is a gamble, and every stranded boater is a warning nobody in the industry can afford to ignore.